On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Alien Romulus has its box office projections out, and it could be one of the top, maybe the top alien in the franchise in over the last 20 years. Inside Out 2 is about to pass Frozen 2 to become the second biggest animated film of all time. Twisters just nearly doubled its box office predictions with $80+ million. Kevin Feige's concerned, or at least confirmed something about Blade, that it's going to be rated R. And there's a Hollywood insider saying that Robert Downey Jr. could be Dr. Doom. Sounds weird? It actually could make some sense. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now.
Got the latest scoop and the hottest takes, the John Campea Show, where the conversation never breaks.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and joining me in studio today, I got Ray Ora.
Hey, happy Monday.
Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Paris Rose is here.
Hello.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about some predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a comment, question, thought, theory, or opinion you'd like us to address in the show, go ahead and send it in anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at our tip link at www.streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. And we'll get around to answering it at the end of the show. Or if you happen to be one of the many people who watches this show after it's been streamed live and you want a question sent in too, like I said, this tip link is good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So just send in your question anytime you'd like, and we'll get around to it on our next episode. And guys, the countdown continues. It is now 3 days. 3 days. It is Deadpool and Wolverine week. 3 days away from what might be the biggest film of the year. We're going to find out. And the countdown indeed does continue. Okay, guys, with all that out of the way, let's get things going here and talk about this quickly. Of course, Alien Romulus is coming out in the beginning of August. With all the attention being on Deadpool and Wolverine, you'd be forgiven if you kind of forgot sometimes that Alien Romulus was coming out. I was not in favor of this movie when they first announced it. I thought it was a bad idea. I thought this was a dead franchise, much like I did with Predator before Prey came out, which totally changed my tune. But with what they showed us at CinemaCon and the trailers for Alien Romulus lately, this has looked fantastic, like really good. And now I am legitimately excited to see this film. And it turns out that maybe a lot of other people are as well, because Box Office Pro has just put out their long-range forecast saying that Alien Romulus could take in up to $50 million on its opening weekend for Alien Romulus. Now, to put that a little bit into perspective, let's take a look at what the Alien films of like the last 20 years have done, all right? Well, first of all, we had Alien versus Predator. I think that was like 2004 or something like that. Alien versus Predator made $38 million on its opening weekend. Followed up by Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which I forgot to put the Requiem in there. That made $10 million on its opening weekend. Then came Prometheus, the highly anticipated Prometheus, Ridley Scott returning to the Alien franchise, and it made an impressive $51 million opening weekend, and that was followed up by Alien Covenant, a movie I didn't like very much, but ended up making $36 million on its opening weekend. With the franchise being in rough shape as it is, a lot of people don't have a lot of belief in this franchise and all this kind of stuff. The fact that they're now projecting that it could get upwards of $50 million on its opening weekend is, I'll just say it, it's massively impressive. That is massively impressive if it can do that. Now, we've seen a couple of films lately completely obliterate their opening weekend projections. I believe Inside Out 2 was projected to make upwards of $80 million opening weekend. Ended up making like 150 something or around that neighborhood. Then Twisters, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I mean, this would be an absolutely phenomenal result. Particularly since I think it's only going to be like a couple of weeks after Deadpool and Wolverine comes out. I mean, this could be the movie that takes Deadpool and Wolverine out of the #1 spot at the box office. Granted, Deadpool and Wolverine will be in its third weekend, but still, if this movie can do that, Listen, I'll tell you what, I have had to walk back a lot of what I thought about them doing another Alien movie because I'm now excited about it. The trailers have clearly worked. It sounds like a lot of people are going to go out to see it on its opening weekend. And if it can have that kind of success, good on them. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Do you think Alien Romulus can indeed hit like that 50 million mark on its opening weekend? Are you planning on going to see it? Maybe you think it's going to exceed that. Maybe you think it's going to flop. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our first official topic here today, shall we? Paris, what we got up first?
Yeah, so Inside Out 2 continues to break box office record after box office record, and now it's about to pass another massive milestone. As of this recording, Inside Out 2 sits at $1.445 billion, just 10.5 million behind Frozen 2, which is expected to pass in the next few days to become the second biggest animated film in history. So, John, how significant is this milestone for Inside Out 2?
I mean, we're running out of words to describe this. Nobody, and I mean nobody, prior to this movie opening, thought, not the most enthusiastic, the most hopeful, and the most optimistic executives at Pixar even remotely thought that for an Inside Out to $1.4+ billion was remotely possible. The concept that it could catch Frozen 2 was just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Then the movie opened. 150 million? I can't remember, Ray. Fact check me on that. But it opened to I think around 150 million opening, which was just $154 million opening, which is just ludicrous. And it never slowed down. It just kept going and going and going. Now, I want to, again, do a correction to the industry. You're going to see some outlets out there saying that Inside Out 2 is about to become the biggest animated film of all time because it's about to cross Frozen 2. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. It is not about to become the biggest animated film of all time. The biggest animated film of all time is the 2019 version of Lion King. Guys, listen, I feel like we're living in idiocracy whenever people try to argue that Lion King is a live action film. Live action films have cameras and sets with actors and real things. Lion King was made entirely in a computer by artists and animators. It is not a live action film. Mm-hmm. And whenever I see outlets, even respected outlets, referring to it as, I think we are living in idiocracy. Yeah. It is, make no mistake about it, it is an animated film.
Yeah. The Wikipedia chart I've got up with you on screen here, it recognizes The Lion King as the #1 animated film. Yeah. So it's not, we're not alone in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's just preposterous. So if you see any headlines out there saying Inside Out 2 is about to become the biggest animated film of all time, no, it is not. That still remains The Lion King. Is it a better film than The Lion King is, the 2019? Well, that's a different discussion altogether. But that aside, what this film has done, I mean, think about this. Think about all the great iconic animated films, even the ones that just come out in the last 10 to 15 years. This movie's bigger than The Incredibles. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This movie's bigger than any of the Toy Stories. This movie just passed last week Super Mario Brothers, which a lot of people didn't think another animated film would do for a while, because that one made over $1.3 billion. Right. And now it's about to pass Frozen 2 as, other than Lion King, the biggest animated film ever made. Certainly the biggest film ever out of Pixar. I mean, this is outstanding and crazy. And I need to remind everybody about the context. It's happened in a time when everybody said the box office was dead. This thing just became I think it's about to become the 14th biggest film in history, live action or animated. It's about to become the 14th biggest film all time in history, and the #2 all time animated film in an era when everybody said the box office was dead, and when everybody said Disney animation was dead, and all that kind of stuff. This is an absolute phenomenal accomplishment for them. Congratulations to everybody over at Pixar. And you know what? It's always great. There's a certain satisfaction because sometimes we see bad movies do great box office business. It happens. But there's something satisfying seeing a truly wonderful film. Not the greatest animated film of all time or anything, but it's nice to see a truly wonderful film with a great story and a great narrative and wonderful characters and fantastic dialogue and heartfelt emotions and real experiences actually enjoy this kind of success. So good on the folks over at Inside Out 2. Congratulations. Now, it ain't ever going to get to 1.6 billion. But then again, when it crossed like 1.1,
Yeah.
I said, hey, it can climb a little bit higher, but it's not going to catch Frozen 2. Jonathan said it would. Jonathan Voico said it back when it passed 1.1, and I said, well, it won't catch Frozen 2. Jonathan Voico said, yes, it would. And now we're just a couple of days away. I think it's only like $10.5 million away now.
Yeah.
from-
It's within reach now. I mean, this week it's going to pass.
It's going to happen this week.
Yeah.
It's going to pass Frozen 2. So congratulations, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? The record book just keeps getting rewritten by Inside Out 2. It has now crossed 1.4 billion. It's about to catch Frozen 2 to become the second highest grossing animated film in the history of the business. How much higher can it go? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Paris, what do we got up next?
Right, the new Glenn Powell film Twisters hit theaters this weekend and has absolutely destroyed its box office projections. Many of you will remember that Twisters' early opening box office projections had its making an impressive $40 to $45 million. While estimates started to get higher as the release date approached, but it still managed to shatter expectations by pulling in over $80 million.
Jeez.
So, John, are you surprised by the huge turnout Twisters got this weekend?
Yes. Yeah. Listen, I was one of those. Ray's shaking his head. Ray's not surprised at all. Ray's not shocked in the least. But I mean, listen, I thought when they said like 45, I thought that's great. Like 45 million, just to remind everybody, a $45 million opening for Twisters would be bigger, significantly bigger than Fall Guy did, significantly bigger than what Furiosa did in its opening weekends. A $45 million opening for Twisters would have been great. Would have been great. And then, we went to go see it in 4DX and the theater was full. And I thought, maybe it can pass 45 million. Yeah. Can pass what Ray and I were talking about. They can pass that $45 million mark, I think, with the packed theater we were in. Sure. But doubling that $40 to $45 million estimate? Let's just point this out. Cinema Blend pointed this out right now. Twisters just had the third biggest opening weekend of 2024.
Yes.
Last week, reports suggest that Twisters was looking to be chalked in as a win for the box office with a $50 million three-day start because the estimates kept going up as we got close to the release date, which would have been good enough to rank in the top 10 opening weekends of the year. That didn't happen. Instead, the new sequel to it's not really a sequel, by the way, but anyway, to 1996's Twisters far exceeded expectations. And if early numbers hold true, it's just had what will go down in the books as the third biggest debut of 2024, beating out Godzilla versus Kong. It actually, we talked about how big of a weekend Godzilla versus Kong had. This thing just beat that out. And it's going to be great. Now, I don't want to be the guy who pulls the fire alarm at the party. The wet blanket.
Something's telling me you are, though.
As Chris Carr would say, yucking on anybody's yum. But while absolute champagne bottles should be popped and celebrations should be ensuing, Twisters is about to run into a wood chipper called Deadpool and Wolverine. So it better make all the money it can. But you know what? It may not even be that dire, because Jonathan and I were talking before the show, and there is an argument to be made, because we've seen this happen before in Hollywood and box office history, where like you get one movie like that is selling out all of its screenings, and then a lot of people go, well, let's go see something else. What do you want to see? You know what? I haven't seen Twisters yet. So there could be some overflow
Gets the
residual.
residual, yeah.
Yeah, like a residual effect of people going to go see Twisters, which would be great. Because you know what? Twisters is not going to end up being in my top 10 favorite movies of the year. But I had fun. It was a good time. It was better than the first Twister.
I'm about
movie.
to have the same kind of fun because I'd like to announce today I got my 40X ticket
Oh, you're going to go see it in 40X.
on Wednesday at 4:30, and that Wednesday showing is practically sold out. And I checked Thursday, and they're still playing it. Not Deadpool, they're still playing it, and that one's almost sold out. 4:30 and the 7-something p.m. So Twisters is still bringing money in.
Get
just
momentum,
happy.
maybe.
I'm just happy that my people, we're all coming to go see this movie.
Who are your people?
Your people?
My people are the
Filipinos?
ones who love natural disaster movies. We all came out this weekend and we supported the film, and it supported us back by giving us a good movie.
And it supported us back.
Because
I
usually,
like that.
but usually these movies, they're dog crap.
Oh, yeah.
all
Yeah,
natural
a lot of
disaster
times they are.
They're dog crap. But this time we both won. And we all came out. We went to see it. I think it made the money that I wanted to see it make, and I'm happy. Deadpool can have the rest of the week. It's fine. I'm happy with what this did this past weekend.
And you know what? It was my first time seeing a movie in 4DX. And I think I got lucky that my first experience in a 4DX was probably for the perfect movie to see in 4DX. Like I was saying this before, like they showed a preview for Deadpool at it, but all the 4DX-isms didn't really feel like it fit with what Deadpool was doing, right? But in Twisters, and I'm not even talking about the tornadoes, like as they're driving the trucks over the fields and your chairs bouncing around with it, it was truly very immersive. It was great. So I had a good time with it. A lot of people have went to go see it, obviously, and we'll see how well it can hold up. I regretfully think we're about to see like a 70% drop, but that's not the movie's fault. That's just going to be with everybody going to see Deadpool. But who knows? Maybe there can be that residual overlap, and maybe people planning to go do a double feature. This will be a fun one. Jonathan was saying before the show started, Deadpool and Twister sounds like a good double feature this weekend.
Yeah.
So, hell, why not? Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Twisters just absolutely scorched its opening weekend projections, nearly doubling the initial ones, making over $80 million. Again, another big hit in what was a slow box office year, but has really been turning it around. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our next topic here, shall we? Paris, what do we got up next?
We've got Blade news.
Oh boy.
Ray's happy.
Well, no, not that it has a director yet, or a writer, or an updated release date.
Oh, no.
But
It has our heart, though.
it has a heart and excitement. But we do know that the film will, in fact, be rated R. So Marvel head Kevin Feige was recently asked about the status of Blade, to which he said they're still working on getting the story right. But he also indicated that it most likely the film would indeed be rated R, as many fans had hoped to hear. So John, what do you think about Blade now being confirmed to be rated R?
I think it's predictable, but it is, people need to recognize, a complete 180 that Kevin Feige has done. Because you remember a year or two ago, somebody was asking, like after they announced the Blade movie with Mahershala Ali, there was this famous interview that he did, and somebody asked him, what are the chances of Blade being rated R? And Kevin Feige shot it down. He said, Deadpool is going to be an exception, because we still didn't really know what was happening with Deadpool at that time. He said, Deadpool will be an exception to that because it's Deadpool and all that kind of stuff. But no, Marvel is going to remain PG-13 and all that kind of stuff. So he basically had shot it down. Now, there had been some comments made and stuff like that in recent months about the possibility of being rated R, but this is the first time that Feige himself has kind of stepped up and said, yeah, this thing's going to be rated R. Now, he said this. When asked about the possibility of it being rated R, Kevin Feige said, and this comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, says, I think that's right, Feige replied. I mean, for the last 2 years, we've been trying to crack that movie. The most important thing for us is not rushing it and making sure that we are making the right Blade movie. He continued, because there were some great Blade movies years ago, they were all rated R. So I think that's, like Deadpool, inherent with the character of Blade. All right. So I think a lot of fans are going to like hearing that because that's what the other Blade movies are. For the record, I don't think a Blade movie has to be rated R because in movies, you can do a lot of horrible violence on robots, aliens, and monsters and not get an R rating. You can decapitate them. You can do all sorts of terrible, terrible things to robots, aliens, and monsters and still get away with the PG-13. So because of that, I thought you could get away with doing a good Blade movie. That's PG-13. But as Kevin Feige pointed out, this is its natural home. It's its natural habitat to be rated R. So I think that's going to make a lot of people happy. I don't think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but it's nice hearing Kevin Feige himself come out and state this after years earlier saying that no, it wouldn't be rated R. The one thing, though, that I want to push back on Kevin Feige a little bit for is let's go back to that first paragraph. When I said, I think that's right, I mean, for the last 2 years, we've been trying to crack that movie. The most important thing for us is not rushing it and making sure we're making the right Blade movie. Okay, that's good. That's good. But the Kevin Feige we know always made sure they had their movie before they announced it. I'm not saying they've made the movie. I'm saying Kevin Feige that we know always knew what his movie was going to be before getting on stage at a D23 or a special presentation or a Comic-Con Hall H and then announcing that movie. It is not in the nature of the Kevin Feige we know to get on stage and say, we're making this movie. And what's it going to be about? We don't know yet, but we're making it. Fabulous. This highlights, I mean, listen, Kevin Feige has made like 30 plus films with the MCU. In the midst of all that, you're going to make some mistakes here and there, but this is one of those mistakes. They never should have done that. I mean, I think it's become obvious now that we're 5 years later and still no signs of a Blade movie. We're 5 years since Kevin Feige brought Mahershala Ali on stage at Comic-Con and announced, we're doing a Blade movie, everybody. Woo!
Yeah, you know, to your point, I had just read an article this weekend. It was an interview that Feige was talking about, and everyone was like losing their mind about, oh, Nova, he confirms Nova. And he said, yes, we're developing Nova, but what we're doing that's different at Marvel is we're acting more like a typical studio. We are developing a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff may never see a screen.
Yeah, and then like there's a difference between something being developed and something being greenlit.
And before, it was like, well, we're developing, we got to announce and release it. And now they're like, let's develop it first. People can know we're developing it. We'll just be like, it might come out, it might not. We're just developing these things right now. So they're being a little more practical.
Yeah, because that's a big difference.
Yep.
From saying, guys, we are doing Blade and we've got our Blade Mahershala Ali and bringing him out on stage. So yeah, I do want to push back. So, okay, it's great. It's going to be rated R. But as Paris pointed out, we still don't have a director. We still don't have an official writer. We still don't have a release date. John, it says November 2025. It's not going to make a November 20. They don't even have a director right now. This movie's not making a November 2025 release date. So now we may get all of those answers on Saturday night when Marvel does their Hall H Comic-Con panel this Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Ray and I will be doing a live stream from here in the studio with a couple of friends that we've got who are going to be in Hall H and posting out up to the second news of what's being announced on the stage. And we're going to go over all of it with you guys. So you guys should come and join me and Ray.
Was that Saturday, you said?
On Saturday evening. Yeah. Maybe I'll talk Jonathan to coming in and joining us for that too.
Well, I don't know.
So, I mean, so maybe all those answers but it is at least something. It's a morsel. It's a symbolic goodwill gesture.
Yeah.
So we may not have a Blade movie, but when we do have one, it's going to be rated R. And maybe it'll still have Mahershala Ali. Guys, seriously, I think there's a chance one of the things that gets announced on Saturday is a new Blade.
Yeah,
No.
Jonathan.
Do you
Wouldn't
have
you wanna
any
be here
thoughts
for that, Jonathan?
of who it could be?
No. Like,
This hurts my heart when you say this.
I mean, I know. I want it to be Mahershala Ali so bad, but I have no insight. By the way, just to be clear, I have nobody telling me that it's not going to be Mahershala Ali. Likely it will still be Mahershala Ali, but I fear that we're going to find out that he's had to move on. Again, there have been a few names that we threw around here the other day, like John David Washington. I think would be a really interesting. I think he'd be a really, really interesting choice. There's a few others. Hell,
Would it be Aldous Hodge?
What's that?
Would he be Aldous Hodge?
I mean, Aldous Hodge would be great. First of all, that dude is a brick fucking house.
Yeah, he's a giant.
He is a giant, chiseled monster of a man, and he would be a very intimidating screen presence.
Loved him as Hawkeye. Loved him as Hawkman. So.
He was great as Haunted Autumn in the live chat is a great pick, of course. Paul Walter Hauser.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, you know what? That would be my
Paul
second
Walter
choice.
Hauser as Blade,
That's my second choice.
or Chris Pratt, because
Well,
Chris
actually,
Pratt is doing
what
everything
what
right
is
now.
Blade's like not sidekick, but his man in the chair, like the older dude or whatever.
Whistler.
He could play like a younger Whistler or something like that. They could rewrite that.
Paul Walter Hauser.
Yeah.
Somebody came up as a Whistler. Somebody put up a name as a Whistler earlier,
yeah.
and I lost my mind over it. I thought it was great, and now I can't remember.
I forgot to.
I can't remember who on earth it was. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Kevin Feige's done a big spin around on this. He's now saying, yes, Blade will be rated R. Not that we have a Blade or a writer or a
footage.
director or a release date. But hey, when we do get one, it should be rated R. Maybe we'll find out a lot more about it on Saturday. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this little interesting thing, shall we? Paris, what do we got up next?
Probably the most anticipated cast announcement Marvel fans are waiting to hear right now is who will be playing the icon villain Doctor Doom. Well, according to Hollywood insider Jeff Snyder, it could be none other than Robert Downey Jr.
What?
Sounds crazy? Maybe, but Snyder insists he was told RDJ might come back as an alternate universe Tony Stark who becomes Doctor Doom instead of Iron Man. John, could there be any truth to this?
Okay, so let me just say that my very first reaction when I read this story from Jeff Snyder was, that's ridiculous. That straight up, that was my very first reaction. That is ridiculous. But then I started to think about it. And you know what? It might be perfect. Before we go any further, let's actually take a look and see what Jeff Snyder said here. This comes from Gizmodo reporting on what they said. Speaking of Doctor Doom, there's still no word yet about his casting in Fantastic Four. As insiders denied my inquiry, this is Jeff Snyder speaking, my inquiry about Robert Downey Jr., who I was told might come back as an alternate universe Tony Stark, who becomes Doctor Doom instead of Iron Man. It seems far-fetched, yes, but I figured if there was any hope of Downey coming back, there'd have to be a new wrinkle for him to play. So for now, we continue to wait. All right. Obviously, this would break, if this were to be true, and that's a huge if, we're just talking here, we're just talking. If this were to be true, it would obviously break comic book canon, because in comic book canon, Tony Stark is not Doctor Doom. Victor Von Doom is Doctor Doom. Yes, absolutely, 100%. But we are often reminded that the MCU and the comic books are two different things. They are two different things. Just because the MCU has shown us again and again and again and again, just because something happens in the comics does not necessarily beholden Kevin Feige to then do that in the movies. 90% of the people who go to the movie theaters to watch MCU movies have never picked up a comic book in their lifetimes. Now, let me just be clear and preface this. If Kevin Feige were to call me and say, John, do you think we should have somebody else be Doctor Doom, or do you think we should have Victor Von Doom be Doctor Doom? I would say go with Victor. That's what I would say. That would be my preference. Just saying that to get that out of the way. But there is something fascinating about this idea. And I will give you one word. Maker. The maker. Here's why this theory why this report is actually really, really fascinating to me. Because one of the most dangerous, feared, ominous villains that Marvel had on their pages in the comics in recent years has been this villain, the Maker, who, as it turns out, for those of you who do not know, actually ended up being a Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, from a different reality, where something in his history went a little bit different than our traditional Reed Richards. And the question becomes, what happens if the world's smartest man broke bad? And we got a fascinating set of stories out of that in the comics as a result of it. An absolutely fascinating set of stories. What happens if the world's smartest man breaks bad? They did it in the comics. You could make an argument that making Tony Stark a different reality's Tony Stark into the villain Doctor Doom, while not a direct translation from the comics, would be taking the spirit of one of their big stories in the comics and bringing it over to the screen, except that instead of Reed Richards, it's Tony Stark. Because think about this. Tony Stark, when we first met him, was a pretty, not an evil guy, but a pretty indifferent guy. Ambivalent, even.
Yeah.
What would Tony Stark have turned into if it wasn't for his experience in the desert, being captured?
Right.
What was the character's name? Yin Sin?
I can't remember.
I can't remember if that was his name, but it wasn't held captive with Yin Sin. I'm probably saying the name wrong, but I think that was the character's name. And gone through the experience that he did that ultimately evolved him and set him on a path to becoming Iron Man.
Why not use a weapon you only have to use once?
Yeah.
You know?
They say the best weapons are the ones you don't have to use. I say the best weapons are the ones you only have to use once.
That's how my dad did it. It's how America does it.
Gosh darn it. I mean, what happens though if instead you're telling a story where in another reality, that same Tony Stark had a different experience than the one he had in the desert? That instead of seeing him break one way to becoming heroic, had him break another way to the point where he thinks to himself, I'm the smartest guy alive. I should be ruling the world. I'm going to start by taking over this one nation. Let's say, I don't know, what do we call it? Latveria. I'm going to take over this nation. And instead of applying his genius, it reminds me a little bit of what Superman says about Batman. What does Superman say about Batman? He's the most dangerous person in the world. He has no superpowers. Superman says, that guy, Batman, most dangerous guy, who in the span of a weekend decided to go, I'm going to figure out time travel. Remember that? In Endgame? He's just like, yeah, okay, I'll try to figure out time travel. All right, I broke it. I solved it. I figured out time travel. How dangerous could that guy be? How hard would it be for the smartest man in the world to, I don't know, figure out magic?
Mm-hmm.
How hard would, he already built the Iron Man armor. What if he built something a little more Doom-like? Again, I'm not making an argument. Let me be clear. I'm not making an argument that this is the way they should go. I'm just saying that from my first reaction about going, oh, that's ridiculous, has kind of changed to, you know what, if I'm being honest, and I just don't want to do, no, just do it the way the comics do it. Why? Because if I don't want to take on that attitude, which admittedly I often do, I'm this guy a lot of the time. I admit it, I am. But instead of just being, do it because that's the way it was done before, this could be fascinating. It could be, listen, Captain America said, I think Captain America is the greatest hero Marvel's ever had, but Captain America said in Infinity War, when Iron Man went missing, saying, Earth just lost its greatest defender. What happens if Earth's greatest defender becomes the Earth's biggest threat? There is something so juicy about that. There's something so fascinating. Would it be a break from the comics? Yes. but it wouldn't be a break from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It could be fascinating. Again, I am not saying that's what I would do. I'm not. I'm just saying I don't think the idea is as ridiculous as I first thought it was, because in the hands of the right writer, in the hands of the right director, the idea of an evil Tony Stark, not an evil Superman who has all the powers in the world, but an evil Tony Stark is the world's smartest guy, going bad. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I think there'd be some potential for some fucking great storytelling. Now, they will probably not do this. It will probably be Victor Von Doom, and I'm sure they're going to do an awesome job with it 100%, and that's the way that I would go if Kevin Feige were to ask me. Again, just saying, if they did go this other direction, I'm not going to poo-poo on it. I'm not going to reject it out of hand. I'm going to go, you know what? It's got potential. Let's see what you do. So, I don't know. Like, any of you guys, any thoughts about this at all, about the possibility of this, or if they did do it?
My only thing is, I wonder if people are going to be waiting for some kind of redemption arc because they want to see Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. be a good guy. And
That's true too.
Yeah.
And so if you never get that, like he is a villain, you're not going to get a redemption arc for him then.
Yeah.
And that might be a little hard for people to like understand or take. Like, oh, he's bad, but he's also Iron Man at some point. So like he's going to become good again, right?
I don't know. I love to hate characters, so I
Love
could
to
be
hate
At
characters.
first, I was like, "Well, this sounds really stupid and it could be a fail." But John kind of got me excited about this.
Oh, I'm not-
It has potential.
Yeah,
like you said, it has
I'm
potential.
not against it outright, and if it's done right and they have well written, I mean that character definitely can have a dark side, and there's a lot of depth to that character. So yeah, we
Because
could
I'll
see
tell
a
you this right now.
Dark Universe version.
This part is true. Average movie fans who have never picked up a comic book in their lives, they're going to feel far more threat and a much higher threat level from an evil Tony Stark than they will for a new character they've never met before coming on screen saying, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Victor Von Doom." Not that the movies can't evolve to have us realize how big of a threat and how horribly it's just like they did with, Thanos and what have you. I'm just saying it would, for the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie viewers, most of which who have never picked up a comic book in their lives, there's an argument to be made that this would be more impactful for them, for the movie audience, than for whatever. Now, of course, the hardcore comic book nerds, those of us who make up like 5% of the movie-going audience, there will be outrage. There will be absolute outrage. But I have always said this. I believe this to be true, and everybody hates it when I say it, but it is true nonetheless. The number one job of a filmmaker is to make the best movie possible, not to stick as close as you can to source material. I'll say that again. The number one responsibility of a filmmaker is to make the best movie possible. And if they think they've got a code here that could make a better movie for the audience, go with it. Again, I'm saying all this is devil's advocate because if Kevin Feige were to call this phone right now and say, "John, which way should we go with Dr. Doom?" I'm going to say go with the traditional Dr. Doom. There's so much you can do with him, all that kind of stuff. Yes, I'm just saying, I think it would be short-sighted of us as an audience that if we did find out that this report from Snyder was true, to reject it out of hand before giving it a shot, because I think there's some really rich stuff you could potentially do there, even if it wouldn't be my first choice.
Could there be a situation where it's a bit of a telephone situation where what was reported back to Jeff, the person that reported it, may have been a little like confused or whatever? And could this be like just an episode of What If and Downey Jr.'s coming to voice the character?
It could. I mean, listen, like, first of all, Jeff was the first guy to report to the world. He's the one who broke the story that Harrison Ford was going to be Thunderbolt Ross and a ton of other stuff. Jeff Snyder's brought some of the biggest scoops out, but Jeff is not always right. Right? Just recently, Jeff was the one who broke the story that the Russo brothers wanted to do an Avengers film, and Kevin Feige rejected it. Turns out, I think there is some truth to that. I think what really happened there was Kevin Feige probably rejected a couple of the ideas that they brought, but still wanted to work with them because we found out that through the Hollywood Reporter that they want to. So Jeff has broken some of the biggest scoops ever, but isn't always right.
Well, he can only report what he's been told.
Exactly. Like, so I can 100% guarantee Jeff was told this. I can't guarantee that what he was told
Right.
was actually true. So I would say if I were to give a 1 to 100 chance that this is actually what Marvel is doing, I'll give it a 15% chance. 15, because I think Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. I think he's been talking more and more positively about coming back. And maybe it's not going to be as Iron Man. Maybe it'll be something way more out there, way more left field, way more shock the audience than anything else. And maybe that's the return of this time an evil Tony Stark. Again, not what I would do, but I think there's potential if they do it. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, listen, just do me a favor. Stop typing your, no, I don't want this. Just stop that right now. We all agree that the first choice is to do the traditional Doctor Doom, right? We all agree with that. But if they were to go in this direction, do you see there being potential for some really great storytelling? Maybe you don't. I do. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on to the most important part of our show here, shall we? Which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, we got a lot of questions that you guys have sent in, so let's get things started here, shall we? Paris, what do we got up first?
Yeah, Joey says, after the last trailer, I have a gut feeling we may see Deadpool fight the Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine, or at least the character shows up. It's not at least a cameo, if not at least a cameo of some sort.
You know, I thought that a lot, that we would see the mouthless smirk with a mouth from that X-Men Origins movie. But the more I've been thinking about it, they've already made so many jokes about that version of Deadpool in the other Deadpool movies, right? They have. They've already made jokes about it. So I'm now kind of thinking they won't. I mean, obviously, I don't know that they won't. Maybe they will. But I'm kind of thinking that's already territory they've covered. They've already made the joke about the mouthless Deadpool. So I don't know that they'll bring him back. So I'm going to guess no. But again, it's just a guess. We'll find out. All right. What's next?
Papa Walt says, I listen every day, and last Friday, I was more excited for your review of 4DX than seeing the last Deadpool trailer. I took my son to 4DX. It's cool. It enhanced my Lightyear and migration experiences, but took away my experience, experience for Super Mario and TMNT Mutant Mayhem.
Again, that was the impression I got from my one and only experience in a 4DX, was like, hey, in Twisters, this was really good. But I was telling Ray and Ann as we were coming out of it, I can see it in a lot of other movies just being a distraction. Again, in Twisters, it immersed me. Watching the Deadpool trailer and having it doing it felt like a total distraction. So I really think it's about
Picking and choosing
the right movie to see it in 4DX. But it's an amazing technology.
I've only seen Top Gun and Twisters, and those were perfect picks for me, at least.
Right. I kind of wish I saw Top Gun Maverick in
Oh,
4DX
it was
now.
amazing. It was amazing. Just the dog fighting itself.
Yeah, the
With
banking.
the breeze.
and
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
This race car one coming out.
That
shot
might be. That
could be
might
good.
be.
Yep, that could be good too. That could be really good. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says, John, I pulled up Aldous Hodge's IMDb and noted one guilty pleasure and one amazing show. He is in Leverage Redemption, and one of my favorites, the Revolutionary War spy thriller, Turn, Washington Spies. If anyone hasn't seen Turn, it's a must.
I remember I've seen portions. I didn't know Aldous Hodge was in Turn. That's cool.
I've had a lot of people over the years tell me I should watch Leverage. And I've never gone and watched it, but I've always heard it was actually a pretty fun show. So I had no idea he was in it. So now I'm kind of interested. Thanks for putting it on the radar.
He's got a great presence on screen.
He does have a
Yeah.
great, by the way, if you didn't see him in Elizabeth Moss's The Invisible Man, he's really good in that. I love that movie.
Yeah.
They made that movie for like $8 million.
Didn't they try to like wedge that into the dark universe? Or like, and this is part of the dark universe too. But
It was never said that it was.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because with their dark universe that they were going to do with all those people, they never said Invisible Man was going to be a part of it, but maybe they would have worked it into their plans.
maybe.
All right, what's next?
Anorak, the all-knowing, says, John, after watching the D&W trailer many times and the final trailer, I've noticed and theorized in my head that Alioth would be a projection by Mysterio and his drones. A Mysterio variant, perhaps. Bring on the film.
Nah.
No, I don't
Nah.
think so. They're in
I
the
don't
void.
think anybody, no, they're actually in the void.
Yeah.
And Alioth is actually a creature in the void. I wouldn't see any need to go and bring in Mysterio for that. Again, like, who could pop up? Everything's possible. Could Jake Gyllenhaal pop up in this in some way? Yes. But having like Alioth being just a illusion, I'll be really surprised if that's the case.
He should just pop up as Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Just
Jeez, like, I'm really
Yeah.
confused. I don't really know what's happening.
all right. What's next?
World's Greatest Detective says, from the final Deadpool trailer, I think the reason you love the line, you were always the wrong guy until you weren't, is connected to why you love Boromir.
Maybe. I mean, I do love, there's very, very few things I like in fiction more than redemption. Like, redemption stories are great, which is why Boromir is like probably my favorite character in all of fiction. Like, not just in fantasy novels, or it's like in all of fiction. That's been my favorite character because of, his personal little redemption and how he goes out dying, saving the hobbits, or trying to save the hobbits at any rate. So there could be a bit of that to it. I mean, also to me, there's something very emotional about seeing a character so broken as this Wolverine clearly is in the trailers, and then having someone come along and basically let them know that there is more to you. And I know because I've seen you do more. Maybe it was a different version of you, but it was you nonetheless. And there was something about that I found very powerful. And like I said, practically got me crying watching it in the trailer. So we'll see how it actually plays out in context in the movies. All right, what's next?
Your Orlando Informer says, so John, I'm shocked we didn't hear your feeling about how our new Superman did in Twisters.
Oh yeah, so we're watching Twisters, and I'm like, because David Cornswell comes on the stage, and I'm like, but I didn't know he was in the movie. I'm like, oh, who is this guy? I know this guy. Who is this? Who is this? And like, it was Anne who leaned over and goes, it's Superman. I'm like, no. She leaned over and said, he looks like he could be Superman. And I went, that's because that is Superman. It's like, oh my gosh, he was great. Listen, first of all, he's gotten quite a lot bigger than before when he was in Hollywood, the show.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot bigger, and he's got a screen presence.
Oh yeah, man.
He's got a strong screen
He's
presence.
got the physical presence of him.
Yeah.
Even in that State Farm uniform he had on, that's what it reminded me of. He was just like a State Farm Geico insurance employee.
I mean, when he comes on
But
screen,
Jesus,
the tornadoes
man.
turn direction.
If he comes and asks for your payment for your insurance plan,
Just
You're
pay
gonna
it.
pay him.
you're paying him probably the rest of the year. just so he doesn't show up at your doorstep anymore. The dude is tall.
He's a tall guy.
I
He's a
cannot
big
wait to see his
dude.
presence in Superman. Just from this little nerdy thing he was doing at Twisters. My God, as Superman, he's gonna be. Who's gonna want to fight this guy? Nobody. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody.
Anyway, long story short, I thought he did great. I thought he was really, really good. Even though it's not all that big of a role, I thought he was really good in it. All right, what's next?
Christopher Rosado says, "Hey John, do you think you all will do a tailgate style show on the Thursday when Deadpool and Wolverine opens like you did when No Way Home came out? It was a fun time just hanging out and celebrating a movie we were all excited about."
You remember that day, right, John?
Oh God, I remember we brought in
we
the
didn't even
party
do a full
favors.
show. Yeah, we
that
barbecued
sounds
and then we went straight to the movie.
Well, how did we shoot it? I don't quite remember that.
I don't think you were there.
You
No.
weren't there with us.
No, you
yet.
weren't there. This is back when Spider-Man
Yeah.
No Way Home came out.
I came
and
already.
we had Spider-Man hats, and Spider-Man
I
streamers, and all that kind of
barbecued.
stuff.
We had a little bit of something to eat, and
Would
then
you
we
do?
all
Just
went
shoot it
straight
out there, or did you shoot
No,
it?
No, we
in
shot
the
in studio here.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, yeah, I think we might do something. I mean, I don't know. Like, we don't have
We got a really crunched week. That's the problem.
Yeah, we got a
Comic-Con
whole
and then,
week.
And the,
Are we going to Comic-Con?
I
I still don't know. I still have no idea if we're going to
got
Comic-Con
to settle
or not.
that out today.
But yeah, by the way, the Jake Gyllenhaal thing, that going back to the previous question. So there's a very good chance, because a lot of people thought he might be in it, because you guys might remember this social media post from a couple of years ago. So you had when
Right.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are like all buddies, right? And they told this story about how had this Christmas party, but they told Ryan Reynolds that it was an ugly Christmas sweater Christmas party, and nobody else dressed like that. And Ryan Reynolds showed up in this thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jake Gyllenhaal does pop in the movie, because he's really good buddies with these
Yeah.
other two guys. I just don't think we're going to see him doing that in the movie. That's all. Okay, what's next?
Jermaine says, "Oh, and thank you for the $20, Jermaine. I've always felt the X-Men should stay in their own universe. However, I've embraced the future. Funny, as much crap as people give Fox's Marvel Universe, two characters established in it have people the most hyped for an MCU movie since No Way Home, in my opinion."
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have always, over the years, always thought that if Marvel ever gets the X-Men back, and then once they announced that they were getting them back, I've always felt that the best approach would be to keep them in a different universe. Like, the MCU as it is getting a little convoluted and overcrowded. And now you're going to bring over 500 X-Men universe characters. I always felt keep them in their own separate universe, telling their own stories in a different world. That is not happening. That's clear that that's not what's happening. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate all of that. But yeah, like bringing over Deadpool and bringing over the Wolverine and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see how they integrate all of it into one big universe. And it's not going to be easy, but if anybody can do it, it's going to be Kevin Feige. All right. And thank you so much for supporting us on that level, man. Really appreciate that, dude. Thank you for that. All right. What's next?
Christopher Rosado says, "Are you and Ray still gonna do your Deadpool and Wolverine opening weekend bet? I think over under 200 million be a number for you all, so one can take the over and one the under. Personally, I think it will hit 200 million, probably around what Black Panther did."
I just don't know. We don't have anything to bet on.
Yeah, man. I've been feeling a little under the weather too, so I haven't been putting my head around that. I'll still make the bet, and then you guys could actually do the. You guys can actually do
No, because like everybody loves making wagers when it's not their ass on the line. If John loses, he's gotta shave his nuts on camera. I don't know, but it's gonna be something extreme like that. Like if you leave it up to people where they have nothing at stake, they're gonna make something extreme. But I will take the under on 200 million.
I've already made it.
If we do
clear.
that, that's got to be a Manscaped week. So
I already made it clear that I was with Chris. Well, I'm going with her on the 250 plus. That's it. That's all I know for sure.
Yeah, I'll take. I mean, I think maybe the number has to be adjusted a bit. Maybe we say 215 million is the over under. So I will take the under on that.
Okay, I'll take the
You're
over.
going to take the over on that.
Just have to figure out what's on
We
the
just got to
line.
figure out what's at stake here. But no, the audience does not get to decide what's at stake because it's too easy when it's
Yeah.
not your ass on the line.
They're
You
saying
and I will
breakdance, the breakdance tape.
No, the
Oh,
breakdance tape is not coming out. You have to give me $200 million for me to put out the breakdance tape. All right, what's next?
Christopher Rosado.
That's
Oh
that
no,
one. There you go.
Eddie Burton's. Oh wow. Is
Wow,
this
sends in
correct?
$100 tip.
Whoa. Big
Thank you,
spender.
Eddie, for supporting us on that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you for
Money,
supporting
money,
our show.
money. Thank you, Eddie. All right, wanted to send a tad extra as a way to say thank you to John and crew. From the AMC movie talk through Collider to now, I've been a fan and the show's meant a lot. I appreciate all the knowledge, insight, and entertainment you've given me through the years, sir.
Aw, dude, listen, it's always really nice when somebody sends in like support on that level just because they want to be supportive of the show and say something encouraging.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, man. It's truly an honor and a privilege. And the only reason I've been able to do things from the movie blog to AMC to Collider to now is because of folks like you who support our channel and stuff like that. So it has been, believe me, our pleasure to do this. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for also like not just being here, but actually wanting to support what we do. So thank you so much for that, man. That's very generous of you. We appreciate it very, very much. All right. What's next?
Duck Duck says, Buenas tardes. Gosh, my Spanish is horrible. You mentioned making a video about your finances on an open mic, and I personally would really appreciate it if you do.
Yeah. So on a recent open mic, I don't know why, but somebody wrote in asking me like some financial advice, whatever. And just to be clear, I am absolutely no financial expert. I do, however, have had some rules I've had for myself financially that I've followed in my life that may or may not work for you, but they've worked for me, that have always had me in a place that I've done well. One of the rules that I've always had for myself, and I tell people this all the time, but nobody wants to hear it, is when I was in my early 20s, like really early 20s, I had paid off one of my credit card debts, and I hated my credit card debt. And I made a rule for myself that I have followed ever since. Never buy anything on credit and never go into debt. And I always thought, this is my early 20s, the only time I will let myself go into debt is when I buy a house, because buying a house and getting a mortgage, that's kind of an inevitability. But I will never go into debt again, ever. If I can't afford to buy something with the money I have in my bank account right now, then that means I can't afford to buy it. That's why I went 13 years driving the same car. And then when that car finally died, the next car I drove for 5 years was your dad's 20-year-old car. And I drove that for the next 5 years. And all the time, I saved money and put money away and put money away. And then once I had enough money put away, even if it took me years and years and years and years and years and years and years to do it, then I bought myself a new car because I could buy it outright. And that is a financial rule I've just always had for myself. You know, I mean, there's other rules too. Make sure X amount of money is always being put away into savings or investments. Never spend more than X amount of money on this. Never buy something I can't afford. Never touch my credit card, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, what I do with my investments and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, all right, at some point, somebody asked me, I will make a little video about how I've put how I handle my finances and the way I manage money. And again, not to be any way suggesting this is how you should manage your money, but just here's how I do it. It works for me. And if you think some of the things would be applicable to you and work for you, go ahead and use them. So yeah, I'll make that video at some point. All right. What's next?
Noah says, hi, John. Has there ever been a big release film where, apart from the plot, you've wanted to know as little about the film as possible going in? If so, I assume that might be difficult since part of the job is watching big film trailers to review on the show.
Nah, not really. I mean, like, to me, I'll just give you an example. Spoiler alert, the Titanic sinks. Now, but this is a good case study on this because, like, I know what happens to Titanic, but knowing what happens in the movie isn't the movie. It's about the execution. Is the movie done well? Does it make you feel? Does it have great dialogue? Does it connect you to the characters? Does it deliver the experience? Knowing that at the end of the movie, the boat sinks, that's okay, that's fine. But that doesn't contribute or take away from the quality or lack thereof of the movie overall. That's always been my kind of thought and approach. I mean, seriously, I've watched movies in my life over the past 10 years, a couple of times, where I've literally been given a full 15-minute breakdown of the entire movie and then gone into see the movie and totally loved it because it's about execution. To me, I'm not saying this is the way it needs to be for you. I'm saying for me, it's about how well is it executed. It's about those things you can't find out by knowing just points. Oh, fact point number 1, this guy appears. And fact point number 2, at some point there's a bank robbery. The bullet points of a movie doesn't tell me whether or not a movie's good. So yeah, honestly, for me, I mean, I always don't want to know anything I don't need to know going in. But other than that, it's never been a big deal for me, to be honest. All right, what's next?
Confused fan says, here I am walking around NYC when I see Tobey Maguire walking out of a restaurant. I asked for a photo and I told him I loved him in No Way Home. He looked at me, grinned, and said, wait for Deadpool 3, then winked and walked off. Was he trolling?
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I think he's trolling you.
Yeah, I don't either. Number one, you are trolling us because Tobey Maguire has been in this business a long time. He's not stupid enough to tell random fans on the street something like that. So either number one, you are trolling us and lying, or number two, he trolled you. Now, there have been many people over the internet that have predicted that either Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire or both may pop up in this movie. Tons of people online have suggested that. So is it a possibility? Of course it's a possibility. But yeah, in the style of Ron Burgundy, I don't believe you. So yeah, there's that. All right, what's next?
Matan Valensky says, I feel that it was better if season 4 and 5 of The Boys were truncated for a 12 episodes final season. Homelander taking over the White House feels like a 3-part explosive final. Overall, that season was either padding or set up for the final season.
Nah, season 4 was fabulous as it was. It was paced out perfectly. The story progressed exactly the way it should. And it was all just a setup for what is now coming in the big finale. I mean, Eric Kripke said this was always planned out and architected out as a 5-season thing. What we are leading into in that 5th season is what we were always leading into. To do the last 2 seasons as a 12-episode thing, that would have been way too Game of Thrones season 8. It would have been way too. They would have had to skip over a lot of stuff that's just been too juicy. So no, I think that would have been a mistake. All right, what's next?
Parmita says, hey, John and crew. A while ago, I sent a question asking if X-23 would ever come back. Several people agreed that it was a very low chance of happening, wasn't going to happen. But it did, and so as one Captain Raymond Holt once said, vindication for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're not the only person. There was a lot. Once we started finding out that it was going to be like a multiversal type of story, a lot of people predicted that we would see X-23. I'll be honest with you. Something you left out of your question. I mean, while I always said it's possible and it was a possibility, I didn't think they would. I'll be honest. I didn't think they would. And yet here she is. And clearly they were saving that for the final trailer, the dramatic trailer, the drama trailer. Because we've been getting a lot of trailers that was like the fun and the funny, but then they delivered this trailer. They were holding back that X-23 part for the drama trailer, which I thought was very, very effective. So yeah, you weren't the only one that thought it, but even though I knew it was a possibility and I said it could happen, I didn't think it would. And here we are. All right, what's next?
Bob says, Marvel states that the MCU is Universe 616, so maybe the reboot is simply Universe 1610, Ultimate. This would allow new stories of beloved MCU characters to continue and reboot old characters in 1610. Maybe the reboot is happening with Fantastic Four.
No, it's not rebooting. I mean, let's be clear. At understanding movie language, a reboot is when you throw away everything you had, you get a new actors, you start your stories all from scratch, you get a new performers, all that. They're not rebooting it. At least not yet. At least not yet. So I think ultimately what they are going to do with Secret Wars is they're ultimately going to do what I thought they were going to do initially with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is close off the whole multiverse nonsense, right? Close out. This is the multiverse saga. I think it's going to end with them shutting down the multiverse, and they're going to bring different elements, bring new creative things, maybe even the X-Men. This is how they're bringing it in, maybe not. And they're bringing it into one thing. But yeah, that's how I think they're going to approach it. And I honestly, even though I don't think Deadpool is going to be like the main lead into Secret Wars, I think we are going to get some hints about how they're going to resolve multiverse in Deadpool. It'll be interesting to see which ones we do. All right, what's next?
But why Sergio Leone says, for the first time, I saw 1984's Once Upon a Time in America, and it was very uncomfortable to watch.
Yep.
Not for the violence, but the content. A 13-year-old Jennifer Connelly's bare butt, a vag flash, a newborn girl, and De Niro's character rapes a woman in his limo.
Wait a second. I think I'm thinking of a different movie, to be honest with you.
I don't remember it being in a limo. I thought it was in the bank they were robbing. But I could be off.
At any rate, I mean, look, film is always going to do things to push our buttons. Remember, movies are supposed to be experiential events. And there are times, like, I remember it caused a big discussion in the Peter Jackson film, the one where Stanley Tucci's the killer. The one with Mark Wahlberg.
Peter, boy.
It's the one Peter Jackson, the only film he really did after Lord of the Rings.
I'll have to look it up.
I'm sure people in the live chat.
Oh, Lovely Bones.
Lovely Bones. Thank you. I remember I said something that got some people upset. But one of the things I said about the Lovely Bones was I felt we needed, as the audience, from a visceral level, to actually see at least the beginnings of Stanley Tucci attacking the girl. Because I think there's something for us to truly embrace and experience the monster that he was, and to then truly feel about him the way that I think the story wanted us to feel about him. There are certain things to elicit that emotion that we as the audience first need to experience at least a little bit of. It's got to be more than theory, because we learned in theory, we learned in hearsay what Stanley Tucci's character did, but we didn't experience any of it. And because of that, I felt a lot of the audience didn't have this visceral hatred towards the Stanley Tucci character that maybe we could have. And sometimes movies and filmmakers, and I'm not trying to make a direct comparison between them, but sometimes movies and filmmakers, and that's why sometimes like there's sex in movies, not because it's just to show, TNA, but I mean, sometimes they do it just to show TNA, but I mean, there's also to really feel the visceral passion between certain characters. They want to show something a little bit more explicit, right? To make us feel that. And sometimes that's what filmmakers want to do. They want to put something shocking on screen to elicit, and because they want the audience to feel a certain way, and they sometimes feel this is the way we get them to feel it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that is one of the things in their toolbox. All right, what's next?
Bob says, hi, John. With Harrison Ford coming into the MCU, do you think we could see any other older actors enter? This could be someone like Mark Hamill, Kathy Bates, or Robert Carlyle. Personally, I would love to see a gender-swapped Kingpin played by Kathy Bates.
Well, we've already got Kingpin. I mean, Kingpin's in the MCU now.
Yeah,
we have our Kingpin. It's Vincent D'Onofrio. He's there already. Well, let's not pretend that Harrison Ford was the first Hollywood icon and legend
Michael
to come
Douglas?
in. Well, Michael
Robert
Douglas, Robert Redford, Sir Ben Kingsley, Anthony Hopkins. The list goes on and on. I mean, it's not like Harrison Ford is the first guy. He's just the latest one to do it. Like the MCU, you remember, I know it's hard for people to remember now, but like back before X-Men.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges is another good one. But back before X-Men, no legitimate actor was going to pop up in a comic book film.
It was great as they did, though.
Yeah, but as they started coming, now it's like, when are you going to do a comic film? When's that? And now we got more and more iconic legends coming. They got, what was the name of, suddenly I froze on it. Kate, Blanchett. They got Kate Blanchett, one of the greatest female actresses of all time.
Although not an older actress, but like she's still like one of the top actresses in the world. So I know what you mean.
I mean, so it's not like Harrison Ford is starting a trend. He's just the latest one to do it. And we'll definitely get more as the years go by. All right.
They need to get, what's his name? Kevin.
Yeah, Glenn Close is another one. Glenn Close they got in there.
What? Why can't I think of? He was in Las Vegas. He was one of the ones he stood up for the handshake.
Robert De Niro?
Not Robert De Niro. Kevin
Kevin Kline?
Kevin Kline. They just got to get Kevin Kline.
Oh, I would love to see Kevin Kline in an MCU character.
Yeah.
I would love to see him in there.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Stubble McShave says, public service announcement. Stay off social media on Wednesday. Here in Sweden, and I'm not sure some other countries, we see D&W on Wednesday.
So do we.
My viewing starts 8 p.m., 11 a.m. your time. So there'll be potential spoilers on social media all Wednesday afternoon.
Wait, we have screenings on Wednesday? I thought the earliest screenings were on Thursday.
No, isn't it Wednesday evening? I thought, or is it Thursday then?
I thought it was Thursday. I mean, we got
Maybe
tickets.
so.
We
Yeah.
got the tickets to the first screening we saw available.
Yeah, it's probably Thursday then, because that's right. Because the release date's Friday, so we get it.
Yes, we
but
get it on
I
Thursday.
remember them saying the UK gets it on Wednesday also.
Now, here's the other thing. The premiere is tonight. So we're going to see our first social media reactions. Guys, listen. If you don't want to know anything. Now, we're like tomorrow, we're going to read social media reactions, but we're not going to read any of them that give away plot points in the movie tomorrow. But other than that, other than tuning into the John Campea Show tomorrow, stay off social media and stay off YouTube. Again, just specifically type in on your browser, youtube.com/John Campea. Don't go to your YouTube homepage.
Yeah, you were gonna get
Yeah,
Bombarded.
because they're going to put out everything that the studio doesn't want you to know yet. People are going to put out everything tomorrow.
maybe just come find us on audio.
Yeah, maybe. No, just type in specifically youtube.com/John
Yeah,
Campea.
because you're not gonna get the spoilers here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll give you the reactions, all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff. But other than that, guys, stay off social media because you're only asking for it if you get
I
on
mean,
it.
even this week, we don't typically cover like spoilers, endings, and stuff of a movie until after it runs through the opening weekend.
No. We're only
So-
going to tell you the stuff that the studios put out there. But anyway, all right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hey, John, at that time it looked like a good decision, but do you think Marvel regrets killing off characters of Robert Downey, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson in one movie? Then the big blow by losing Chadwick. Too much star power and credibility lost in 1 year.
In the Marvel Cinematic Fate Death universe, it doesn't really matter, right? Because, I mean, look, Robert Downey Jr. was at the end of his contract. Chris Evans was at the end of his contract. And they know, because these are comic book movies, it doesn't matter. You can just bring them back whenever you want. Maybe even bring them back as a villain. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, if they didn't kill off Black Widow, I think we were still done seeing Scarlett Johansson playing Black Widow, whether or not they killed off her character. So no, I don't think they regret, because ultimately, listen, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark character dying the way he did was great. And it's going to stay great, even if they bring him back at some point. There's some of you, it'll spoil his death. No, it won't. It won't at all. His death happened. It created a great moment in a movie, and that will never be changed, whether or not they bring the character back later. Doesn't change it at all. So no, I don't think they regret it. All right. Well, by the way, you know what we might actually consider doing for Wednesday and Thursday show? We might actually turn off the live chat in the live streams.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm telling you, man.
I think we might turn off the live chat in the live streams.
When
People are saying that.
when I had to moderate when you were doing around the time of Endgame, It was bad.
Yeah, because
really bad.
there are look, let's be honest with you. While the fan community is mostly filled up of wonderful, incredible, enthusiastic fans and people, there are living among us fucking assholes who literally will just go around from live stream to spoiler bomb in the chats. So what we might do, at least for like Wednesday and Thursday, is maybe turn off the live chats. In there. We'll do it. Or we'll just encourage people at the beginning of the show, guys, turn off your live chat. Because you can do that. If you're watching a live stream, you can turn off the live chat so you don't see anything in it. But anyway, we might try to do something like that. All right, what's next?
Christopher Rosado says, John, have you heard the new Weird Al single, Polka Mania?
I have not.
That is his polka take on some of the top hits of the last 10 years. If not, you gotta listen to it.
Well, just so you know, Weird Al does tons of those.
Yeah.
Weird Al does lots of polka compilations.
Right. Maybe
where
he put out a new set.
Yeah, where he takes like a bunch of popular songs and does like one verse of each one while doing polka. Because like seriously, if you haven't seen Weird Al Yankovic rip doing polka, he's awesome at it. But yeah, that's a normal thing for him to do. But I have not heard the newest one, but I will make sure I check it out. All right, what's next?
All right, JT says, I got to see the original Lion King in a theater. I was very young when I first watched it, so I never noticed the taxi driver or the in the heat of the night reference in the movie. Also, the transition from young to older Simba gave me chills.
I still remember the big controversy at that time was when we recognized and realized there's a scene for those. I'm going to see if I can find it. Lion King.
And I'm like, I don't think I know that.
Yeah, here it is. In the original Lion King, when there's a scene where a very distraught, now kind of grown up Simba is like thinking about his dad and like flops himself down on the rock, like flops himself down, and a bunch of dust and debris and leaves fly up into the air. It's spelling out the word sex.
No.
And
this
they
is
later
really how it is?
an animator admitted that they kind of slipped that in. That as
Yeah, they've done. Yeah, go ahead.
as the leaves and everything started to form, just for a
It's like
frame,
frames. Yeah.
just for like one frame,
What is the reason?
it's spelt out. It's just
They did
something
it-
they wanted to slip.
They did
in.
it in other movies. They did it in stuff in Little Mermaid.
I know
and-
Aladdin
yeah.
has stuff, but what really is the reason?
It's just
for-
to troll
for
people.
these-
They get away with it. It's like in a
kid
frame
movies?
or two.
Actually, it was from The Lion King that I ever first heard the term "fuck me eyes," because I was watching Lion King with some friends, and there's that scene where he finds Nala again after all those
Oh,
years,
yeah.
and they're rolling around in the grass, and he pins her, and the camera does a close up on her face, and she has those eyes, and a friend of mine said, "Those are some fuck me eyes," and I'm like, what the hell is that saying? I've never
I
heard
was
that
like,
saying.
geez, I want to be Nala. I want to be a lion. She's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, they made her hot. They made her hot.
They
All
really
right.
did.
What's next?
David says, to the people saying Deadpool and Wolverine has no shot of making $1 billion, please remember a 3-hour-long R-rated biopic about a physicist made over $950 million. I know Barbenheimer had a big role in that, but still. Also, Oppenheimer was amazing.
Well, I mean, more applicably, in just the last couple of years, there has been an R-rated comic book movie that did make over $1 billion. It was called Joker. So we just recently had an R-rated comic book movie that made over $1 billion. So I still don't understand how people don't think this movie will make $1 billion. Now look, if we see the movie and it sucks, maybe it doesn't make $1 billion. But precluding that, I just don't see any reality in which this movie doesn't make over $1 billion. I don't think a lot over $1 billion, but there are people out there who think it's going to make $2 billion, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
Bedora says, I know you'll say I'm wrong and roast me, but your definition of a spoiler is not everyone's definition.
Okay, stop. This is why I have to repeat myself so many times. Because how many times have I said that the biggest problem about spoilers, and the reason we as a fan community will never not have a problem with spoilers, is the fact that nobody has the same definition of a spoiler. We as a fandom have never been able to come to a common understanding about what a spoiler is. To some people, a spoiler means this, and to some people, a spoiler mean that. I have always said, repeatedly, 1,000 times, that the biggest problem with the issue of spoilers is that every single person has a completely different definition of it. So, yes, I know fucking people have different definitions of spoilers. I've been fucking telling you that for 20 fucking years. And people wonder why I have to repeat myself. Anyway, let's go on. Continue with the question, please.
It's that escalated very quickly. It's easy to avoid trailers, but not your thumbnails. It's almost like I gotta stay off your YouTube for 2 months just to avoid your thumbnail spoilers.
If you are that sensitive to thumbnails, stay off the internet.
Okay, look.
Just don't need to be on there.
Here's what I said in open mic this weekend, and this is truth. This is 100% gospel truth. You and I can have a debate about whether or not Marvel putting X-23 in their Deadpool trailer was spoilerish of them to do. Okay, we can have that debate. I mean, when they showed that Pyro was in the movie in the first trailer, nobody cried spoilers. This is the exact, putting X-23 in it was just the exact same thing. However, we can have a discussion about whether or not Marvel deciding to put that in the trailer was spoilerish for them to do or not. We can have that discussion. But here's where the discussion ends. Once Marvel publicly announces to the world that X-23 is in the movie, once they do put it in the trailer, again, we can have a debate about whether them putting it in the trailer was spoilery or not. Once they do put it into the trailer, and once they do publicly, globally, make it public knowledge that this character is now in the movie, that is no longer a spoiler. That is no longer a rumor. That is no longer a theory. That is no longer a leak. Once the studio puts something into a trailer, whether they should have or shouldn't have, it's now news. It's not anything else anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Once the studio, whether they should have or shouldn't have, puts something in a trailer, it is now news. And if you want to avoid the news, that's not my responsibility to keep you safe from the news. It's not my job or any podcast job or any blog's job or any website's job or any YouTube channel's job to shelter you from global public news. If you are dedicated to try to hide yourself, and it's fine if you are, but if you are dedicated to hide yourself from global, publicly available news, then it's not my responsibility to hide it from you. It's your responsibility to avoid it.
It's actually your responsibility to talk about it.
It's my job to talk about the news. Again, we can have a debate about whether or not Marvel should have put X-23 in the trailer, but once they did, it's now news. It's now global public information. And by your logic, when they announced that Pedro Pascal was the new Reed Richards, we shouldn't have made a thumbnail about that.
Right.
I don't want to know. I want it to be a surprise who's playing Reed Richards when I go see the movie. Well, it's news now. It's news. Somebody wrote to me today and said almost the exact same thing. They said, John, I agree with your definition of spoilers and all that kind of stuff, but there's no way for me to avoid thumbnails. Yes, there is. Stay off YouTube. But John, that's hard. I know it's hard. But if you want to stay clean of any global, publicly available news, it ain't my job to hide it from you. It's your job to avoid it. And it is hard. It's tough. It means you got to stay off social media. It means you need to stay off YouTube. Remember, we're not talking about rumors or leaks or anything like that. We're talking about globally, publicly available news.
Yeah.
It's your job to stay off YouTube. It ain't my job to hide you from it. That's just the fact. That's a fact. Maybe Marvel should have put her in the trailer. Maybe they shouldn't have. Once they put her in the trailer, that's irrelevant. Now it's global news. And we're a movie news channel.
Yeah, and even
so we're going to make videos with thumbnails and with titles that reflect what is now globally publicly available information. That's what we're going to do. That's our job.
Yeah. And like, okay, that information dropped on whatever day it was. You didn't want to know about that information until after you saw the movie. Well, should we check in? Are you seeing it Thursday or Friday? Can we start talking about it on Saturday or Sunday? I mean, even if we had waited 2 days and then we said X-23 is in it, you'd still be just as pissed as if we waited until the day.
But here's the
it came
question.
out.
Follow your logic for a second. When in the first couple of trailers, they showed that Cassandra Nova was the villain of the film. And all the blogs, all the websites, all the YouTube channels, we put in the thumbnails and titles, Cassandra Nova, villain of the film. Why weren't you crying spoiler then? Because by your logic, that's the same thing.
And it's a bigger spoiler. She's a bigger role.
It's a bigger thing, right? It's a bigger role in the movie. It's a more prominent thing in the movie. Again, look, we can debate about all this kind of stuff, but once a movie studio announces to the world, either through a press release, a public appearance, an interview, or a trailer, once a studio announces a piece of information to the world, it's now news. And if you want to hide yourself from news, that's on you. That's not on the blogs or the podcasts or the YouTube channels to hide you from it. We need to protect you. No, it's news now. You don't want to know who won the game last night? Don't turn on ESPN. You don't want to know? That's up to you. It's not up to us. So it's news. We're going to make titles. We're going to make thumbnails. If you don't want to know the news, you stay away from social media and stay off the internet. And I know that's hard, but that's the burden you've chosen to apply to yourself.
Get your entertainment elsewhere. Like, spend time streaming. Spend time going to the theaters. Go to an amusement park.
Read an old magazine, because that's the only place you're going to be able to avoid it.
But don't go on the internet.
Anyway, all right. What's next?
All right. Gregor says, "Hey, John, in a recent interview when asked whether D&W trailer gave away too many spoilers, Kevin Feige said, if you're already interested in the movie, stay away from all marketing and trailers. That would be smart. What do you think of his opinion?"
He's completely right.
Yeah, we just kind of covered that.
Again, from now we're talking about from the studio's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, forget from a YouTube channel's perspective, but from a studio's perspective. It is the studio's job to put trailers together that are going to attract people to make the decision to buy tickets and come. Now, you can say, listen, there's a reason why Endgame spent more money on marketing than any other movie in history did. Because they knew, while there was a bunch of people who said, Endgame doesn't even need to put out any trailers. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Not for, virgin nerds like you and me who are in this little bubble. Like, of course, you and I were going to go see Endgame no matter what, right? But you and I are in a very small bubble compared to the 95% of the rest of the movie-going audience. They needed to make trailers. Like, you didn't need to put X-23 in the trailer to get me to go. Maybe not. But their market research that they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on told them that this would, and they might be right and they might be wrong, but it would cause some people who might be on the fence about going to see Deadpool and Wolverine, that this is going to be a determining factor for some people. Say, okay, you know what? This interests me. And again, here's the interesting thing about Deadpool and Wolverine. In the 10, 20, or 30 pieces of marketing they've put out, almost 90% of it is the same 1 minute of footage. Have you guys noticed that? Like, with all the trailers and all the spots, 90% of it is the same stuff we've seen over. It's not like that one Spider-Man movie where somebody put together and added up all the actual footage from the Spider-Man movie, and it ended up being over a half hour of the film. Remember that?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Like, that was, that they literally showed over a half hour of footage in the various trailers, promo spots, and commercials. The Deadpool and Wolverine situation has been completely different. I feel like if you added up all the footage we've seen, maybe it comes to 3 minutes.
We see a snowy forest, we see the void, and we see the TVA. And that's it.
We see Deadpool and Wolverine in a car.
Lady Deadpool.
We see
as far
the
as like the
same
scene
clip of
where
Lady
it's-
Deadpool
gotcha.
over and over again. I mean, seriously, if you add up all together the actual footage from the movie that's been shown in all of the trailers combined, I would be shocked if it was over 4 minutes. Shocked if it was over actual 4 minutes of footage.
Oh, we've seen it.
I think they've shown us next to nothing. in these trailers when you compare it to other films in the past, like that Spider-Man movie that showed over a half hour.
There may be even shots in the trailers or promos or whatever that don't actually make the cut in the final film. So even that stuff may be throwaway stuff because it's not even in the final film.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's keep going. What's next?
Christopher Rosado says, after seeing Twisters, I hope we may get more disaster movies again. I have such a soft spot for them. Now I want a sequel/remake of Volcano. Like if you cast it right and set it in another big city, it'd be a hit. Don Cheadle has to come back, though.
Put Don Cheadle in anything. Listen, I agree that we are ripe for the return of natural disaster movies. I mean, hell, I even had a ball with San Andreas. Like, I had fun with San Andreas. Was it a great movie? No. But was it fun? Yes, it was fun. Come on.
Ray just chuckles.
So more giant storm movies, more volcano movies. Hell, we're even ready for the return. Well, we actually just had Greenland, which was the return of the asteroid movie. But yeah, bring it back. Bring them on back.
Man. One a year at least.
One a year
One
at
good
least.
one at least a year.
What's next?
Chad from Pittsburgh says, hey, John and crew, I saw Twisters with While on a Date this weekend. My date and I both thought the movie was good and, more importantly, fun. She said they need to make more movies like this. Also, movie dates are better than most other dates.
I have always said, and gather around children, because Love Dr. Campea is now in session. I've always said movies are, where some people say movies are bad dates because you just sit there, you don't talk. No. Okay. Movies are great first dates. And I'll tell you why. As long as it's dinner and a movie. But here's the mistake. Some of you have heard me say this before. Here's the mistakes that a lot of the amateurs make. They go to dinner first and then they go to a movie. That's wrong, my son. That's wrong. Because first of all, you go to a dinner and you and the person you go to dinner with have no shared experiences. You have no shared experiences. So you're kind of sitting there, it's an awkward conversation, whatever. And then you end your evening by literally sitting quietly in a room together, and then the movie's over and you say goodnight. Here's how you do it. You do the movie and then you do a late dinner or drinks. Because you go into the movie first, you now have, when you come out of that movie, you have a common shared experience. You both watch this same movie. Now you've got a discussion starter. You've got a place to start. You got a topic that you can talk about right away. You're coming out, you're talking about the movie, blah, blah, and then you allow the conversation to evolve and whatever. And you're doing that over drinks or dinner afterwards. So your evening is ending, or maybe not ending, with interaction, right? So that's the key, my friends.
Disclaimer there, though. Disclaimer there.
What's that?
This may not apply to 4DX, though.
It may not.
Because you don't want to be like, yeah, I remember when the snot flew out your nose during the tornado scene, or when I spilled the soda on you. That might not be the best thing.
That's even better. That's even better, because now you got something to laugh about. You got something to laugh about. So yes, movies are great first dates because they give you the basis of a shared experience. The thing is, do your dinner or drinks after the movie, not before. All right. Now you've learned something. And knowing is half the battle.
You're welcome.
What's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says, the X-23 quote is great, not just because she's in it. In one sentence, it had such depth and emotion and tells us that is much more than cameos and yucks. So while I would appreciate the pop in the theater, telling people that has real heart is important.
I think that's what they were overcoming there. That's what they did it.
I absolutely agree. See, that's the thing. They gave us a lot of the trailers that showed us the action, showed us the fun, showed us the jokes. That's all great. But Kevin Feige put out a statement that we talked about on the show saying this movie actually has a ton of heart and a lot of emotion and is really going to tug on the heartstrings. So they decided to make their final trailer the one that really highlights the drama of the movie. And I think they always planned all along that X-23 in that scene was going to be a part of that final trailer, the one that emphasizes the drama. Because I'll tell you what, that trailer was very good. That trailer is not as good without that X-23 scene. That X-23 scene is what really drove it home. That's the part in the trailer that actually made me start to cry. And that's what made the trailer so impactful. And again, while it would have been cool to go in and see X-23 for the first time in the movie, sure. But guys, what we've seen, I think, represents 2% of what we're about to get in this movie. 2% at most.
And a part of me says, I hate spoilers as much as the next person, but a part of me says, if they're willing to give up X-23 in the trailer, imagine what we have in store.
What they haven't shown us yet.
Imagine what we have in store.
Yeah.
Because X-23 was someone I didn't expect in this movie. So it would have been a crazy moment in theater. But if they're willing to give up that part, I just my head
All right,
just exploded.
I got to address this. One of our viewers, Juice Style, says, but John, we didn't need X-23 in the trailer. Who's we? Tell me who we is.
People who
You mean you. You didn't need X-23 in the trailer.
people who thought this was just being a goofy mess needed it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people out there. We see that in the chat board every day whenever we've talked about Deadpool. This movie's just going to be a lot of jokes and it's just going to be a lot of anything. That X-23, listen, could they have gotten away with not having X-23 in the trailer? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But having that in the trailer made that trailer great. And while you and me while you and I didn't necessarily need it in it to motivate us to go see it, they know that there's a lot of people in the average movie-going audience that were waiting for a trailer like this.
Yeah, a little more heartfelt.
That may become the deciding factor about a lot of people on the fence to go in to see this movie. And so it drives me a little bit crazy because I do it too. I'm guilty of this too. I admit it. It drives me crazy when we fans, and I catch myself doing it, when we say, we didn't need this, as if you and I represent everybody. We don't. We are a very small bubble of people. So when somebody says now, or when I catch myself saying we didn't need, who's we?
Right. The mouse in your pocket.
You didn't, and I didn't, but I guarantee you that trailer is going to be the deciding factor with some people out there who may have been on the fence about going to see Wolverine to make them want to go see it.
I don't remember who made the point. It might have been you, John, that people said, someone said, it might have even been a listener said, some people only saw Logan. They're not into a lot of these other movies, but they thought Logan was really great. Yeah. And this allows people to be like, I liked Logan.
Yeah, we heard that from a viewer said, I skipped the Deadpool movies because they looked too silly, but I saw Logan and I loved it. Well, guess what? There are going to be other people out there like that. Yeah. And that trailer is going to be the last piece of selling point that they need to go, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go see this movie. So anyway, there's that. All right, what's next?
Don't You Call Me Lady says, speculation to expectations be damned. A Portals on your left moment where Fox Universe X-Men show up to help DP and Logan. If Marsden shows up as Cyclops and finally let him cook, it'll be a Cap picking up Mjolnir moment.
Or meow meow.
Listen, I've said that I don't think this movie is going to have a Portals kind of endgame finale with this huge army on one side and this huge army on the other. However, the way you just described it, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you just sold me on the idea a little bit. A little bit of not literally, but a little bit of a form of an on your left moment where frickin' Femke Janssen and Marsden and Halle Berry and Patrick Stewart and Sean Ashmore and whatever, Kelsey Grammer and walk through a door or come through a portal. And it's like, hell yeah, now it's on. Listen, awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. It just got a little bit stiff thinking about it. I don't think they're going to do it, but you sold me on the idea. I'm down for it at this point. All right, what's next?
Let's move on quickly.
Yeah, let's move on. You don't need any more than that.
Spooky Jim says, I saw Twisters and 40X today. Have tickets to an early screening of Transformers 1 in New York on Tuesday and then Deadpool 3 on Thursday. I'm having the best movie week of my life.
I keep telling people.
I'm seeing Twisters on Wednesday.
I keep telling people, and maybe I'll find out that maybe I have to backtrack on this later after I see it. I think people are underestimating Transformers 1. I'm telling you, the presentation they showed us at CinemaCon turned me into a believer. And I think this movie's going to be really good. They just played the film at this big animation festival overseas, and it got a huge response. I think people are short selling this. I think this Transformers, I'm not saying it's going to be $1 billion film. I'm not going to say it's going to be the movie of the year, but I think people are underestimating this Transformers 1 film. I think it's going to be a lot better than people expect. All right, what's next?
Amin says, John, did you see that new Joker Batman imposter figure that Hot Toys recently announced? It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Out of this world.
There's that. I found that. If it's like the Suicide Squad version of the.
Oh my lord.
Oh, well, look. It looks like there's different heads because then there's also that.
I think that's a different thing altogether, though.
Might be, but it's that one back. This first one was from.
Listen, man.
Batman News.
Wait, let's finish reading the question, though, because we didn't get through the full question.
If
Out
you
of this
haven't
world.
seen it, Jonathan or Ray, please bring up a pic. This might be a hot toy worth buying.
Listen, every hot toy is worth buying.
I know,
I
that's the
just don't
problem.
buy them because they're so freaking expensive.
Yeah.
Some people ask me, how many hot toys do you have? And I say I have 4. They're like, why do you have 4? Because if I buy 5, then suddenly I'll have 9. Because it's one of those things where you buy one and you're like, you know what would really look good beside that one? This one. And then you get that, and then you buy another one, and they're like $300 a pop. So it's an expense, but man, they are great. They are fabulous.
I can't wait for the Blade hot toy.
You need a Blade movie first.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm laughing.
All right, what's next?
Let me scroll up on there. That's the Min one.
Panties in a Twisters says, Twisters was a great movie in many ways. Most importantly, their message of helping others. I hope people will join me in donating to the Red Cross and other organizations to help those affected by natural disasters.
You know, I really like that moment too. I really did. And it's very surface level. It's a very simple thing, but part of the movie they go, we got to go help those people. Just something like that is a really nice thing to put into a movie. And I'm glad they kind of focused on that. And I think your message of, listen, whenever these disasters happen and you see the Red Cross and other organizations put out a call for help to help them support these people, consider supporting it because it's a good thing to do. I'm glad you brought that up, man. All right, what's next?
Andrew says, hi, John. How do you think James Gunn's new Superman movie will do at the box office? A smash hit? Or is there any chance it could bomb? Love the show. Keep up the good work.
I've talked about this many times. It doesn't matter how it does. I don't expect that this Superman movie will do particularly great at the box office, and it doesn't matter. That's okay. Right now, nobody believes in the DC product. Right? That's just where we're at. The box office of the last number of a whole bunch of DC films proves that. Nobody wants to go see the DC movies anymore. The main job of the first Superman movie coming out is not to be a big box office hit. They don't care about that. You know why? Because they're smart. You don't think about the next dollar you're going to make. You think about the next 500 million you're going to make. You don't think about this movie. You think about the health of the next 10 movies. What Superman needs to do is not be a hit. It needs to be great because they need to rehabilitate the image of DC. They need to create the narrative that DC movies are great and DC movies are things we need to rush out and go see when they come out. And in order to do that, they need a great Superman movie. And I think that the baggage that it's coming along with right now, the fact that so many people gave up on DC, is going to hurt the box office of the first one. And that's okay. They think they can make $7 billion over the next 10 years with these DC movies. So they're not worried about how well or badly financially the first one does. They just need the movie to be great. They need it to be good enough to start changing the narrative. And they need the movie to be good enough that people start building excitement about the DC brand again. And that's the important thing it needs to do. So it's not going to be $1 billion film. It's got too much baggage. Can it be the thing that starts the healing process? That's the important thing. All right, what's next?
BBD Lady Killer says, hey, John and crew, do you guys think the Olympics will have any significant impact on box office sales for Deadpool and Wolverine this weekend? Thanks. Bring on the filthy.
No. Number one, you got a huge time difference between Paris and here. Number two, everybody can just watch, the event that they were looking to. And by the way, it's not like it's the gold medal game, on that weekend. So honestly, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact at all. All right, what's next?
That's a lot of those tickets already pre-purchased.
Yeah.
Wannabe Tornado Wrangler says, the theaters were busy in Tulsa. Twisters, while ridiculous, was so fun. Felt like a love letter to our state just through the vistas. Between this and Top Gun, I'd expect to see more movies with Mid-America in mind. Prop starring Glenn Powell. What do you think?
I don't think the movies had Mid-America in mind at all. I think it had moviegoers in mind. I don't think Maverick was about, I mean, listen, you know where most people saw Top Gun Maverick? In California. That was its biggest box office draw, was the state of California. So I think it's about finding the movie audiences everywhere they are. And I think it's more, that's why I think F1 might do better than I initially thought. Movies that can really bring you into it, make you experience the rush, like Top Gun Maverick did, like Twisters did to a degree. Movies that are successful in doing that, I think are going to find their audience, and maybe F1 can be the next one that does that. All right, what's next?
Tron says, what is Donald Glover best at? Acting, writing, or music? Also, the final Childish Gambino album just came out and it's a banger.
I've had to listen to it over and over again because that's all Ann puts on in the car when I get into it. It's unfair how singularly talented that dude is.
Yeah, it's hard.
Now, that being said, I didn't like Mr. and Mrs. Smith all that much. As great as Atlanta is, and I loved Atlanta, I didn't think Mr. and Mrs. Smith was all that good, just to be honest. But I mean, his music is radical and so, like, every track is different from the last. Like, he's always taken a really unique approach to his music. I'm going to say, I think he's best as a writer. I honestly think he's best as a writer. I think he's a great musician. Gambino's fantastic. I think he's a wonderful actor, but I think he might be actually best as a writer. All right. What's next?
Anonymous says, hey, John, are things different in California? Here in Michigan, you don't have to buy a ticket to purchase concessions. They want to sell you concessions. I love grabbing fresh movie theater popcorn for an evening at home or a road trip.
It's been the same wherever I've lived, whether it's in Canada, East Coast or West Coast, and now down in California. The thing is, to get to the concession stand, you have to get past the ticket. They don't, like, everywhere I've lived, you have to first get into the theater and go past the ticket taker before you get to the concession stand. I've never seen it otherwise.
You know what? I'm from Connecticut, and it's true. You can get concessions, and then it has that
then
ticket.
check your ticket?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on
That's
where.
interesting.
But it depends on the structure of the building. So, like at the AMC 16, you can't, because the IMAX and the Dolby are before concessions.
Yeah.
But if it's down a hallway, then you could have a lobby and a concession.
Yeah.
Then you could. I think sometimes for safety concerns, they're like, don't even let people in a door without a ticket. You know what I mean?
But no, I think that's great. The idea that if I want some great movie popcorn, I can just walk in, buy my popcorn and walk out. And then they have the ticket checker before you go into the theater. I think that's great. I've never personally seen that wherever I've lived, but I think that's a great idea. You know what?
I think you could DoorDash.
I
popcorn
take
right
it back. I take that back. At the Cineplex, at the Silver City Cineplex in Ancaster, Ontario, which was my home theater for most of my life, they had the big food court prior to you checking your ticket and going into the theater. So I take that back. Yeah, I have seen it. Yeah, I just totally forgot about it. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, what's next?
Ankalagan.
I think it's in Calagon. I'm not sure, though.
Oh, that sounds better. And in Calagan, the Black says, hi, John. I'm working in the movie distribution industry for Europe and East Asia markets, and I can assure you that the vast majority of people outside the U.S. don't give a rat's ass for Wicked. So, in my opinion, we can rule out $1 billion at the box office.
See, that's funny because I spoke to some international distributors at Comic-Con or at CinemaCon who were tripping over themselves, absolutely tripping over themselves, talking about how big this was going to be in their markets. Now, I don't think it's going to be like massively huge in every single market. But again, at CinemaCon, which is the industry conference where all the industry people in distribution and theatrical exhibition come together from all over the world. And we were talking to people and saying, you know, we met people from like all the different branches, and they were like, yeah, Wicked. It was surprising to me how many of them were saying Wicked was the highlight of the show for them. So we'll see.
I mean,
We'll see.
that's surprising me about Southeast Asia, because it did great for The Greatest Showman. Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it did.
So that kind of surprises me, but I don't know.
All right, what's next?
Future Man says, spoilers in trailers are generally why I don't watch them anymore. And if a popular movie is coming out, I will stay on social media because someone always wants to ruin it, like when they leaked Dumbledore's death on Reddit, yes, before the movie came out. That was very annoying.
With stuff that's in books, it's more tricky because
people read it.
there are so
Yeah.
many millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people who read the Harry Potter books and
Right.
already knew. So it's like for a lot of people, it was common knowledge.
It's like Game of Thrones too, for the most
Yeah,
part.
like
until,
so many
the
people
last-
know what's going on in Game of Thrones and everything's going to happen. Like there are definitely examples that even I go, man, that went too far. I talked about on open mic this weekend, the Kevin Spacey, Samuel L. Jackson movie, The Negotiator, which literally the trailer gives the whole movie away. Even the big twist at the end where the two guys team up and they show it in the trailer. Now you got to deal with both of us.
Oh man.
Or the Tom Hanks movie, Castaway, where in the trailer, the whole movie's about him getting stranded on an island.
Yeah.
And in the trailer, they show you the last 5 minutes of the film of him getting off the island. Like that, listen, even for me, there are some trailers that do go too far. But at the same time, I think the vast majority of trailers are perfectly okay. They're legitimately showing you things to get you excited about the movie, to give you an idea about what the movie's about. And yeah, it gives you some information because it has to. But I think most of the time it's not, but there definitely are. I agree. There definitely are some examples and sometimes that they go way too far. All right, what's next?
Giovanni's B-Boy Academy says, can't wait to check out Rob True's Noir panel at Comic-Con this Thursday. If you're there, be sure to stop by room 6A.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot in the last couple of weeks. Rob, of course, has been working extremely hard, round the clock on this audio drama he's been doing called True Noir. This Thursday, I believe it's Thursday, is when they're doing their panel at Comic-Con. If you're going to be at Comic-Con and you're there by Thursday, make sure you go and check it out because I think you're going to be impressed. All right, what's next?
This is a two-parter. Luke Stockton says, hey crew, I wrote in last Friday about the spoilers in the latest Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. Sorry for causing the uproar. I agree with your take, John, about if it's in the trailer, the makers want you to see it and it isn't a spoiler anymore.
I think
Is
it's
it not
still
really
there.
too? Oh, anonymous. Thanks for the open mic discussion last night. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for this movie and can't wait to hear the first reactions tomorrow after the world premiere tonight. Thanks for all you guys do and what fun you make about talking movies.
Well, I mean, it's difficult for me to explain to people my passion for movies and how and why I love them so much and why. I mean, I have a video that's now like 8 years old. That is it's a video of me speaking at a big conference for AMC, and the title of it is Why Movies Matter. And because movies aren't just an escape and movies aren't just for fun. I mean, movies actually have a massive cultural significance. And if you want to go look it up, just look up Why Movies Matter, John Campea, to see this. John Schnepp was on stage with me in that presentation. At any rate, it's been a lifelong passion of mine. I've had a love affair with movies my entire life. My earliest childhood memories, my mom's showing me Star Wars, and it's a real privilege that I get to do it as my job. So thank you so much for that, man. I really appreciate it. All right, what's next?
Seconds from Disaster says, spoiler alert, 3 effing days. I got my tickets the day they went on sale for me and my girlfriend for 7:30 right after the kids go to bed. Can't wait. By the way, I think spoilers are anything that isn't actual promotional material.
Yeah, well, promotion material or, something officially released by the studio. Because once something is publicly released by the studio, it's not a spoiler anymore. Maybe they should have released it and maybe they shouldn't have released it, but that's moot. Once they do release it, either in a public statement or in a press release or in a trailer, then it is no longer, as I've said before, it's no longer a spoiler. Now it's news. Once a studio makes an official announcement and officially releases information to the world officially about their movie, now it's news, and it by definition is no longer a spoiler. All right, what's next?
Is it an anonymous? Anonymous. Oh, another great $50. Thank you.
Thank you, whoever. Not. By the way, guys, let me remind everybody again. When you go to the tip link, make sure you fill out the field that says name. Not because we need to know your name, but because if you're going to support us like that, I want to make sure you at least get a shout out for supporting us, especially on a level like this. So just try to remember when you send in a tip question, fill out that name field, because when you don't, it'll automatically just insert anonymous. And we want to make sure you get a shout out for sponsoring us and supporting us, I mean. All right, let's get on to the question. What do they have to say?
Part 1 of 2. A couple months ago, I wrote in about how Twisters was my most anticipated movie of the year. Our storm chasing crew was invited to host 5 screenings of the movie in Texas. Chase vehicle displays and Q&As. The crowds absolutely loved it.
Part 2.
Part 2. It was humbling to watch people from so many different walks of life coming together to have such a great time at the theater. Twisters was a true event and what cinema was made for.
I mean, I will agree that it's kind of the type of movie that cinema is made for, because remember, to me, cinema is, and what all movies need to be, are experiential events. But different movies are going to be aiming for us to have different types of experiences. Some will try to make us have introspective experiences, deep thought, pondering, philosophical experiences. Some will want us to have scares and fear and whatever experiences. Some will make us want to laugh and have joyous experiences. Some will want to excite us and make us have thrilling experiences. To me, a movie becomes cinema when it truly delivers an experience. It may not be the experience that somebody else would have given you, but a movie like Twisters, to me, really did deliver an experience. I had a great time. And I'm not saying that's any better or worse than something that, say, like the maestro Martin Scorsese may give us. It'll be a different type of experience, but it's an experience nonetheless. And I'm glad Twisters gave that for you. And I'm certainly glad the Twisters gave that for me. And dude, again, thank you so much for supporting us on that level. That's very generous of you, man. All right, what's next?
Thomas BDL says, "Hi team, is anyone watching Presumed Innocent on Apple TV Plus? The finale is this week and it might be one of the most thrilling court case dramas I've ever seen. Jake Gyllenhaal, Ruth Negga,
Yep.
Bill Camp, and Peter Skarsgård are so good. Emmy-worthy performances."
I have not started watching it, but I really want to watch it. Apple TV just continues to deliver great stuff, and the trailers for it look great. I can't remember who it was, but back when we were still at Collider, we had a writer's room that was on staff, some great people in it. And it was their job to, the way the structure was back at Collider, this is when we had like 30 staff. So we had a writer's room with 3 or 4 terrific guys, and it was their idea to brainstorm ideas for videos and something that we could do. And then what they would do is they would take their ideas to Christian Harloff, and then who was like our head of development. And then Harloff with them would go through their best ideas, and then they'd take their best ideas and then they'd bring them to me, and they would pitch the idea to me. And I remember this one, and our writer's room was so good. It was just like, freaking Ken Knapsack was in that writer's room, and others. It was a great writer's room. And I can't remember which one of theirs it was their brainchild, but they came to me one day with this idea of a video they wanted to do. It was like a sketch comedy video. And the idea of it was they wanted to advertise Ruth Negga's Rutabagas. And I'm like, tell me this again. Okay. We're going to have somebody play Ruth Negga, like pretending they're Ruth Negga. Okay, she's a fabulous actress. But we're going to do it like she's got a new product and she's selling rutabagas. And it's going to be called Ruth Negga's Rutabagas.
This is Josh McCouga.
Was it Josh that did that one? We had a fabulous writer's room that came up. I mean, their brilliance in that room I was always floored by the creativity and brilliance coming out of them. That was not their finest moment. That one was not their finest moment.
Josh did have some redemption because at a Comic-Con, I forget what it was. Was it, what was the show she was on at the time? It was the one with the guy. Preacher. And he got to picture Ruth Negga's Rutabagas like to her face at Comic-Con one time.
Absolutely a nuclear arsenal of creative talent that was in that writer's room. That one was not their finest moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. What's next?
TJ Perry says, I've never seen such a wide sweeping ad campaign as Deadpool and Wolverine. Are these guys gonna hibernate? They must be exhausted.
Oh my God, the global press tour. And a lot of movies do this, but they have particularly been all over the place. Like, one of the great things about a particularly Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie is the sheer amount of viral and creativity that goes into their marketing campaigns. And they have, I'll be honest with you, as great as the marketing campaign has been, it's been a little bit tamer than I thought it would be. Like, and it's been exhaustive, and it's been extensive, and it's been creative, but it's actually even a little bit tamer than I thought it would be.
The
All right.
billboards around Hollywood and West Hollywood are so fun. There's one with Deadpool with his like feet actually dangling and going back and forth.
Oh my God.
It's great, and it like lights up. There's been great billboards.
I haven't seen any of them. All right, what's next?
Drew Gretsch says, hi, John. I work at AMC Theaters, and one of my managers told me yesterday that they only keep 10 cents per ticket sold. Also, the theaters keep all the revenue for the special popcorn buckets.
Okay.
Were you asking for a raise? Because maybe that's why he told you that.
I can absolutely assure you that the movie theaters do not only keep 10 cents of the movie ticket. I can 100% assure you of that. Your manager was lying to you.
Or does not know what they're
Yeah.
Now,
doing. Yeah.
I will say this though. Every movie signs a unique contract with the exhibitor, and some movies will have a different scale. But basically speaking, in the opening weekends, the movie theaters keep very, very little. But then as time goes by, the percentage that the movie theaters keep grows and it increases. So by like week 4, the movie theaters keeping a much bigger percentage of the movie ticket sales than they did in the opening weekend. I remember when The Phantom Menace came out, movie theaters were kind of pissed off because George Lucas kind of put a gun to their head and said, opening weekend, theaters keep nothing of the tickets. Nothing. You get your concession sales, but we keep all of the ticket sales. But what were the theaters going to do? You can't be the only theater in town not showing The Phantom Menace. So, and sometimes when a big movie comes out, the studios will have a power position that they can leverage that a little bit. But that's why when I worked at AMC and I've frequently visited the home office in Kansas, the executives there let me know that when it all shakes out, at the end of the day, it roughly works out that the theaters basically get 1/3. Like once you average it all out from the first weekend's tickets to the 5th weekend's tickets and all out, it basically shakes out that the theaters get to keep about 1/3 of the ticket sales and about 2/3 of it goes back to the studios and the distributors. So that's roughly how it works out. I can assure you it is not 10 cents. All right. What's next?
All right, I think we have like 8 more.
All right. Let's see if I didn't think we'd get through all of them today, but let's blast through this as fast as we can.
All right. Tax says, I hope we get a Fathom Events release of Snyder's Justice League one day. Lawrence of Arabia is getting a re-release in August for Columbia Pictures' 100th anniversary, and I want to see my other favorite 4-hour movie in theater too someday. Fingers crossed.
It might happen. I mean,
It could.
I don't think it would be for a while. Because honestly, I think Warner Brothers right now is trying to we're creating a new chapter. We want everybody to move on.
Mm-hmm.
The Snyder Cut fiasco was one of the most majorly damaging and destructive things ever. And I say this as somebody who thinks that the Max version of Justice League is the better version. The 4-hour cut is the better version
sure
than the theatrical. I'm 100% in that camp. I really am. But it wasn't worth it. The sheer amount of destruction and toxicity and poison and nonsense that surrounded, there was no such thing as the Snyder Cut. Warner Brothers literally had to spend $70 million. Remember, the CEO of Warner Brothers said this directly. This is a direct quote. We had to spend $70 million to create it. And ultimately, it didn't do anything for them. It cost them a fortune. We did end up getting a slightly better version of the movie. I think it's the better version, but it wasn't worth it. And I don't think that the new regime at Warner Brothers is all that excited about opening that up again. Could it happen? It could. It could. Do I think James Gunn is anxious to say, no, James Gunn's trying to completely change the narrative. We got a new DC universe. We've got a new Superman. We've got a new exciting chapter of stories coming to you. He doesn't want the story to become about the old thing again that, quite frankly, crashed and burned. So I doubt it'll happen.
You're not even getting the 10th anniversary until 2027.
By the way, Drew 2037 in live chat put it perfectly. Just said they've moved on. They've moved on. So, all right, what's next?
Aegon the Kentucky Fried says,
that's cold, man.
That's awesome.
in my opinion, the best House of the Dragon episode yet. I have no idea where the next 2 episodes are going to go, but I'm strapping in for the ride. I don't think there will be any more big battles or deaths until season 3.
Oh
You
no.
never know.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
wouldn't
there's more Dance of the Dragons to come. I don't think it was the best episode last night. It was an awesome episode though. It was so good. I can't believe how week in and week out they just constantly crouch down and crap out excellence. Week in, week out. It's so good. Oh, and just like, again, my favorite part about all the Game of Thrones shows isn't the big battles, although I love the big battles. I love them. But like freaking Aemon coming into Aegon's room, just like this, or like the moment where Alicent gets dismissed. Oh, he's going to regret that. Oh, he's going to regret that. I can't believe how good this show continues to be. All right, what's next?
Wabbit Season says, has anyone seen the movie Hundreds of Beavers? It's a black and white slapstick comedy harkening back to Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. I know it's available to rent at home, but it's touring theaters, and my energetic crowd made this a damn good time.
Nice pun. I haven't seen it or heard
I've
of it.
never even heard of it,
No, me either.
Hundreds of Beavers.
but you've just put it on our radar, so I'll keep my eyes open
cool.
for it. All right, what's next?
Sorenvong?
Sourvong
Sourvong? I have no
says, have you heard any news about a sequel to Big Hero 6? I really enjoyed it. I believe the movie did great in theaters too, and it seems like it's time to bring them back. I know they came out with shows, but come on. Hashtag Baymax, longtime fan, new listener.
I honestly think that the show killed any possibility for there to be a sequel. Listen, that is one of the movies that I always, why the hell did you not do a sequel to Big Hero 6?
Should have been a franchise.
It was an absolutely delightful little film. Not the best one they've ever done, but it was a delightful film. It made good money. It was successful. I mean, I don't think they could bring TJ Miller back, but I don't know why they never did, but I do at this point think they burned that bridge. I think doing this series kind of ran the reputation of it into the ground. It also took away the specialness of it. So I will be the first in line to go see a Big Hero 6 sequel. I'll be there. I don't think they're going to do it, unfortunately. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. All right, what's next?
J. Pinnix says, almost game day.
Almost.
Last week, I asked odds we see Owen Wilson in Deadpool Wolverine. John mentioned low-key show not as popular, so unlikely they show Mobius and Jet Ski. All of a sudden, we get a new trailer with low-key character. Thoughts? Trying not to spoil things.
I mean, remember, though, I did say, listen, it's a distinct possibility. I don't think we're going to see Owen Wilson in it. I don't think we will. But it is, I said that at the time, that it is absolutely possible that we could. And I'll say this, seeing another recognizable face, not just from the TVA, but from the Loki series, I think only increases that chances. So let's put it this way. Do I expect to see Owen Wilson in Deadpool and Wolverine? No. Am I going to be shocked if when we're watching it, he pops up on screen? No. Do I think we're going to see a jet ski scene? Absolutely not. Because that's only an inside joke that only people who saw Loki are even going to get.
And we barely got to see that. You had to sit through 2 seasons before you got that.
Yeah. So I'm going to say no to that. But again, I'm not going to be shocked anymore. I wouldn't have been shocked before. I won't be shocked and like Kel Supri if we see Owen Wilson in there. All right. What's next?
Connor Lauren Wagner says, just wanted to say I'm a Ray person and I saw Twisters alone, all because my friends didn't want to go. Only the second time I've been to a movie alone. Was thinking of Ray though.
Dude, I go to movies.
I go to movies alone.
I go to movies all the time
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
If you want to see something and there's no one that wants to see it, just go see it.
Yeah, I used to go to concert. I go to concerts alone.
I went to one concert alone. don't go to a comedy show alone. It's just kind of
Comedy
sad.
show alone is whatever. But
Yeah, it's kind of sad laughing by yourself.
I've never understood the stigma about going to a movie alone.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Movies are experiences, and like sex, experiences are best shared. And so yeah, is it more fun watching a movie with another person that you can laugh with and go shock with and all that kind of stuff? Sure, it's always better with somebody else. But I mean, movies are still the experience they are, even if you go alone. And so back when, I was still living in Burbank, I mean, Anne wasn't always available to go with me to press screenings or stuff like that. So oftentimes I would have to go alone, or I would just walk 10 minutes to the AMC Burbank 16 and just go check out a movie alone. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to a movie alone.
Nothing at all.
I mean,
Yeah.
The one time I felt weird about it, there was what was a distinctly a kid's movie, and I decided not to go because I would have felt too awkward being this grown-ass man by himself in a movie full of kids. I don't know why. I felt weird about that, so I didn't do that, but I don't see any problem going to a movie by yourself.
I don't know what's worse, if you're like, or you're going to take someone and force them to watch something that they have told you they're not into.
Or you're going to
Movies
not go
aren't
see a
cheap,
movie just because
yeah.
somebody else doesn't want to go
Yeah,
with
I
you.
mean,
If you want to see a movie, go see a
I want
movie.
to bring up something real quick.
Let's hurry because we're running
Okay,
out of time.
AMC Theater people, dude, the Deadpool and Wolverine page that they opened up is pretty good.
All right, what's next?
A generic man says, with animated films being really successful right now and bringing in families in droves, do you think this will happen with Transformers 1 as well? It could possibly introduce the franchise to the next generation of kids.
Well, I mean, listen, that's their goal.
Yeah.
Their goal now is, you know what? Older fuckers like Campea and his ilk, they're not the future of Transformers,
Yep.
right? It is time, and keep going back to, Welker's voice or Peter Cullen's voice. It's time to move on from that. All hail Welker and Peter Cullen, by the way. It's time to move on. It's time to introduce a new generation, and doing the old Transformers isn't going to bring in a new generation. That's their goal. I think this movie is going to be really good and could potentially set up a new franchise. I don't know how well, particularly financially, it's going to do with its first one out, because it needs to build its reputation first. So they need to put out this first movie that's going to be really good, and maybe it can get bigger from there.
You could say they tried to do the same with Mutant Mayhem and Turtles.
Yeah, and it worked. It
So
works.
we'll
I think
see.
the next one is going to be bigger than the last one was. All right, what's next?
Clayton says, with Miguel Spachnik leaving House of the Dragon after season 1, I was really worried that season 2 would feel disjointed from 1, but now that it's almost over, it has felt like such a smooth transition. What do you think? Has it felt the same for you all?
Well, remember, though, he was the co-showrunner and main producer of season 1. His partner stayed, right? So there was a total continuity. Yes, they lost one of the creative forces, and we do miss him, because season 1 was so good. But I mean, it's had a continuity there. So one of the guys left, but one of the guys stayed. It's almost like Anthony Russo, because of family commitments, can't come back to do Avengers 5, but Joe Russo is still doing it. So yeah, it's not the same creative team, but there's definitely continuity there. So we got to keep that in mind too. But they've done such a good job with this season. It's crazy. All right, what's next?
Brutus says, hi team, I'm going to see D&W on Wednesday and I'm really excited, but I wonder if the movie's media impact outweighs what its actual quality may be. What kind of legacy will truly leave? Will our grandchildren see these movies in 2070 and laugh at us?
Well, look, there's literally a handful of movies that most average moviegoers can name that came out 60 years ago. Right? I mean, that's just the reality of hardcore movie fans can, but most average fans can't name more than 15 movies that came out more than 60 years ago. I don't doubt that the future will be the same. The question I ask is, are we going to be talking about this movie 5 years from now? That's the question. Is it a movie that 5 years from now because there's a lot of movies that came out 5 years ago that we don't talk about anymore. The good ones we do. The truly horrible ones we do too. So that'll be the question. And that's the big unknown. We can't know until we see it. That's why I always tell people, like, listen, as excited as I am about Deadpool, I've been around long enough that I know it could suck. I've seen a lot of movies in my life that I've been very excited about and looked really good that ended up being crap. this might be the next one. So we won't know until we see it. But my impressions right now is I think it's going to be really good, but we'll find out. We'll see.
That was it.
All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys, especially those of you sending like the $150 tips. All you guys for sending in your questions. Number one, because it gave us fun, interesting things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to be talking about some Deadpool reactions. We'll filter out any of the major spoiler stuff. Don't worry. So until then, I want to thank the people in the room with me. Ray Ora.
See you tomorrow.
Jonathan Voico.
Later, guys.
Paris Rose.
Toodles.
My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.